Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Formula One podcast. I'm the father in the title. I'm Graham Miller and here's my son Toby.
Hello.
And this week we're going to be talking about the British Grand Prix. I hope you've seen it because we just kind of can't keep the smiles off our faces. I think it's actually kind of brought, a good story back to Formula One, which I think it needed for a while. But we'll be disciplined. We will start at the beginning and work our way through.
Yep.
Free practice, I can't remember if I saw it or not. I think I was busy and going out. I thought we had a car show to go out to and came back for qualifying. So Toby watched the free practice.
Well, free practice 1 and 2, I don't remember much of. I think, actually, I know what happened. I stayed up all night to watch the election coverage.
Oh yeah, on Thursday night.
And then I think for free practice 1 and 2, I might have been napping, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or at least certainly not, super with it, because I did actually stay up till about 4 a.m.
I think till we get to the result of the race, I think it was clear that Mercedes have made a big step forward.
Yeah.
Their car was competitive all weekend. I don't think it was a all-look, wet-dry race, Russell retired.
It was actually, McLaren were very fast in the first 2 practice sessions, it seems.
Yeah, by the way, I meant to ask Toby, have you heard about the bulge?
What bulge? On the... Which car?
Mercedes.
No.
If you look at the new Mercedes for the last 2 or 3 races, I don't know when it first appeared, but if you look on the nose cone, about where either 44 or 63 is, depending on who you're watching, there is a very definite, very slight bulge, which wasn't there at the beginning of the year. Now, on a normal car, when your wheel goes up and down, you have a spring and a damper to stop it just flopping around and bouncing all over the road. Mm-hmm. And those are mounted vertically because the wheel's going up and down and you've got plenty of space because you're in a perfectly normal car. Now obviously Formula One cars are anything but normal. So they have rods and cantilevers so that all those springs are contained in the nose of the car and the dampers. So when the wheel goes up, it kind of pushes the two of them in towards each other, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And what people are thinking is because they put a bulge there, which you shouldn't really do on an F1 car, and it disrupts the airflow, it doesn't make it as efficient as it could be. They've changed something. I think it's something called the heave damper, but I'm not sure because obviously this is all shrouded in super secrecy. But the basic news is, normally when we get upgrades coming, and Toby and I have talked about this off the podcast, you get these spot the difference photos of like a Ferrari or a McLaren front wing where instead of 2 tiny thin bits of carbon fibre, they now join into one or have a Y shape or they deflect by an extra 0.8 millimetres under so many newtons of load.
Yeah, 2018 cars were pretty bad for that sort of thing.
But this kind of implies that what Mercedes have done is actually change the physical suspension settings. They've actually put new suspension bits in the front suspension that weren't there before, and as a result they've had to go, okay, we'll just put a patch over the bodywork to make it fit.
Yeah.
Which actually kind of figures because after 2, maybe even 2.5 years of absolute head scratching, certainly 2 seasons where in 22 and 23, rather than saying, oh, it's just a slow car, they were actually saying, we don't understand this car.
Yeah.
We don't know what to change to make it faster. It's not that we got this wrong and if we put it right, it'll go faster. They were like, we have no idea. So the fact they've made a fundamental suspension change mid-season is, I think, quite indicative of the fact that, the damping, I think they said it means that they can have softer damping without getting porpoising problems and without affecting something else. It's unbelievably technical.
The actual bulge on the car is exactly where the suspension goes in to the nose. So you're right, I can see it. So
you've had a look on Google, have you?
Yeah, I found an image from the British Grand Prix. And actually, if I just look up the Mercedes sort of before, so the season launch...
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out when the bulge...
Yeah, it's not there.
I don't know at what point in the race they actually... what point in the season they introduced it, because the last 2 or 3 races there have been
Have they
quite
moved the
a lot
number?
more.
Hold on. 2024 F1 car. If I look at images, and then there's this picture of Russell. I think they might have moved the numbers from off the nose. Above the Petronas logo, the sort of little 6 thing.
Yeah.
On the launch pictures, the numbers there, so like 44, 63. But then, there's a little bulge. There's a little bulge there, but that might be the camera. That's a much bigger thing, and the number's not there anymore.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's kind of weird.
That is weird. But yeah, that would make sense. It does look like they've sort of found some performance.
And we're also starting to understand not only why they found performance, but why Hamilton and Russell are so much happier in the car. Because I think all the way through 22 and 23, certainly they were saying, we'll change a small setting and suddenly we'll go from having, really good turn-in to suddenly having a really loose, like, rear end, or they just didn't seem to... It seemed like a tiny change in, like, tyre temperature or track temperature or wind direction would suddenly throw the whole car off.
Yeah.
And now they've understood something, I think, or they've made a really fundamental change.
Yes.
But I think free practice. Free practice 3 was interesting.
Yes. Because it was raining. And I was watching it. And it was raining. And so I was sort of thinking about like the support races and stuff. But I realised that lots of cars actually went out in the rain. Like 19 cars set timed laps in the rain. In free practice 3, which is unusual when it's raining. Because normally you'd expect for a dry race, if it's raining out one of the practice sessions, you basically get nobody going out.
Yeah, because it's just it's risking damage to the cars and not getting any usable data, basically.
But clearly they thought that the data was usable.
Well, yeah, we were watching, because we live in the UK, we were watching the weather both here in South Wales and like the forecasts and saying,
Yeah, it was actually kind of... Was it during the race? I think it started raining outside our house as it was raining on track. And I was like, it's like I'm actually there. It's really immersive.
Yep. Oh, that's what I forgot to... I'm really all over the place here.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a whole slew of people in free practice 1?
Oh, yeah, there were many, what they called, F2 drivers, junior drivers, making a substitution. I've got the list
Isaac
here.
Hadra.
Yep.
Who nearly rear-ended.
Nearly got rear-ended by Norris.
Yeah, he just really didn't actually handle that.
But he went on to win the feature race later on, so he's not a bad driver, clearly.
We had Franco Colapinto.
He's been up at the top. I recognise the name from watching F2.
We had Jack Doohan in an Alpine, which is unsurprising.
Yep.
Oliver Behrman was out in a Haas because he's actually been confirmed as a Haas driver for next year.
Which, he's also British, so that was maybe like a, British Grand Prix, sign him for his home race, let him drive at his home race.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cool thing that they did.
It's all put together. So yeah, there were four up-and-coming drivers, let's just say, in FP1, which was kind of nice to see.
Yes, a lot of them. It's cool. I think the directive that they said you have to run 2 different drivers in 2 different sessions throughout the year.
I think every driver's car has to surrender 1 FP1 session to a non-grid driver.
Yeah, per year. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, every team has to run
2.
Yeah, one of their cars.
No, obviously they're not going to do it in the same session because that's a bit sort of pointless almost.
Yeah. Yeah, you want somebody experienced to show them the ropes, I guess.
Also actually gather some good data that's sort of relevant to the race.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Actually, in FP3, when it was changeable conditions like the race,
it was Russell and Hamilton at the top.
Yep, which is unsurprising.
Yeah, and a tenth ahead of Norris as well. which is in this sort of modern day and age of, super tight gaps. That's pretty convincing.
Yeah.
There was also a British 1-2-3 in practice, I've noticed as well.
Yeah.
And actually, the exact same order as the qualifying to move on to qualifying.
I've actually heard Christian Horner say that it was there's a reason why everything's closing up, because basically there's a ceiling, there's a limit to how fast they can make the cars under these regulations.
Yeah.
And Red Bull got closer to that earlier, which is why they utterly dominated 22 and 23. But now McLaren and Mercedes are approaching that ceiling as well. And there's nowhere for Red Bull can't go any faster. So and I think Ferrari will be there fairly soon, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think they're all, what's it called? They're all closing up now.
Yeah.
And they're even starting to be faster than Red Bull. I mean, in this race, Red Bull were never actually fastest at any point.
No.
Which is kind of, I think, been overshadowed a bit by the battle at the front. And the fact that he came second in the end is masking the fact that actually they've probably the weakest they've looked in ages as a team.
Yeah, so in qualifying 1,
yes,
Perez went off and beached it on the gravel and was out of qualifying altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And then, interestingly, as we said before, Max Verstappen is feeling the pressure and he went off and apparently he tore chunks out of his floor.
Yeah.
And there wasn't an awful lot they could do about it in the rest of qualifying, as it were. I think we had a pause between qualifying 2 and 3 as well, because they had... Oh no, it was the previous one. They had, put gravel back off the track. That was Austria, wasn't it?
Yes, that was Austria with the gravel traps.
Yeah. Apparently Zandvoort are trying to work out how to glue the gravel into the tracks. Which kind of just makes them like super curbs and not like actual gravel traps.
Yeah, but gravel's like sharp and bumpy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're still going to lose a lot of time. If all the gravel's like stationary, you could still pop a tyre or something.
Yeah.
Might be worse, actually, because it'll be like hard but rocky. Who knows?
But then after Perez, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, there's Charles Leclerc as well, who just messed up Q2.
Yeah, Leclerc was just slow.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because the Ferrari's been pretty... And it wasn't even close, really. Who was it who snuck through?
Well, the extras, as we like to call it. We had Hulkenberg, Stroll, Albon and Alonso.
He was actually thousandths off of Stroll, I think. A 26.9 to a 27.09.
Albon was a 26.9. Oh, and Stroll was another 26.9.
But Stroll was actually 5 thousandths behind Albon.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculously tight.
Yeah. It is. And I read somewhere that in the triple header, Hulkenberg outscored, I think, Leclerc and Perez.
Definitely Perez. He scored, he came 6th twice.
Yeah.
And 6th is 8 points. So he scored 16 points in the triple header. I'm just checking my spreadsheet. And Leclerc came 5th once. And he came 7th in a sprint. Was 5th. 10 points? Yeah. Yeah, so he scored 12 points. Hulkenberg scored...
16.
No, 16, because it's 8 points. And then what did Perez do?
What did Perez do?
7th and 8th and a 7th, but I can't be bothered. I'll do the math. 7th and an 8th. 6. 14, but 1 in a sprint, so 15. So pretty narrowly.
Well, yeah, but he's in a Haas.
That is true. Not
a
championship-winning Red Bull.
Talk about driver being better than the car.
He has been massively outdriving that Haas car. I mean, if I'm the team boss of Sauber, I'm just over the moon now.
Audi, especially Audi Motorsport.
Are they staying as Sauber for an extra year?
I think
thought they were.
Audi with new regulations, I think.
But still, if I'm the executive of I combine them in my head, but I say Saudi, which is a completely different thing.
Yes.
Alba. That's a bit better. if I'm in charge of that group, I'm really happy because Hulkenberg is delivering.
He's in a really happy place. And we were really happy at the end of Q3 because we had a British 1-2-3 in qualifying, which I don't think we've seen for a long time.
I think it's the first time it's ever happened at the British Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Last time we had an all-British podium was 1965.
Yeah.
Actually, even before you were born.
Yep.
It was like, I don't know who it was. Probably Hill and Clark. Hill, Clark and Stewart could be, actually.
I'm just looking down. We've got 2 French drivers. 2 Spanish drivers. There aren't really any other, like 3 of the same, or 4 when Behrman joins, of the same nationality, are there?
It was 1968, actually, sorry.
Still before I was born.
And it was Jackie Stewart, Graham Hill, and John Surtees.
Wow, that's a lineup and a half.
I was wrong about Clark, but I mean, you know, if a British driver did something good in the 60s, you can say Clark, Stewart, and Hill, and you're probably right.
Well, you get a fairly... Yeah.
Yeah. But I've been saying we might get an all-British podium for a long time. Because this is pretty much the first time in a long, long time that we've had 3 British drivers actually competing for podiums fairly regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, you think back, Hamilton's always been there for 15 years now.
Yep.
Button shared the podium with him a few times, but who else was around during that time?
Yeah.
During the sort of noughties and tens, the late noughties and tens. So it's a bit sort of, yeah.
I mean, apart from the Max winning, Lando's, I mean, of the people other than Max who've won a race, we've had Lando, George and Lewis. So that is, you're right, the 3 British.
Yeah. So I was sort of expecting it in a way, or sort of like it was there in my mind. And then in qualifying, we had the British 1-2-3, and I was like, this is actually likely, not just like a possibility.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, you wouldn't think it'd be like Monaco and they would all stand on the podium in like Russell, Hamilton, Norris order, but 3 stacked up there at the front of the grid, you know something's going to happen.
Yeah. Certainly, British driver winning at home was definitely on the cards.
Yeah. And with a changeable race as well.
Yeah.
So the actual race itself was, if I remember correctly, dry, wet, dry.
Yeah, started dry, standing start on the mediums, I think.
Most people, yeah.
And then, does it say what tyres they pitted? No. And then it started raining, I think after the first stops, actually.
I don't think it was, because I remember watching it, and I was saying to myself, I was probably actually saying to you,
yeah,
it's very delicate, because as the first pit window opened,
yeah, you're right,
it started showering a bit, and I was like, nobody wants to come in and refresh their tyres onto another set of slicks, and then in 4 or 5 laps find out they need intermediates and have to do like 2 pit stops within 6 laps, which would ruin your race because you just lost a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
So everybody was kind of tiptoeing around and slightly worn out. I think they mostly started on mediums and hards.
I'm just checking the highlights on my phone.
And
oh, come on, YouTube.
Then the rain did come down. I think that was the most exciting part of the race, when the rain started falling. And everybody was grimly hanging out there on slicks in the rain, because it wasn't hitting all parts of the circuit. And you could see the drivers were kind of driving purely by feel and trying to...
And that was when I think the McLaren started being really fast.
Yeah.
Because around then, Norris got past basically all of them, didn't he? He got past Verstappen, I'm just watching. Piastri got past Verstappen, which is pretty significant, actually. Again, because that was a Red Bull that they'd fixed, so there was sort of no... You know, what's it called? There were no excuses for Verstappen, and he ended up in 5th.
Yeah.
Hamilton got past Russell. It was just chaos, basically. Norris and Piastri came right up to the back of them. Norris got past Russell, and then Hamilton. So he went from, it must have been 5th to 1st, or 4th or 5th to 1st in, 5 laps?
in 5 laps in the rain, which kind of tells you about car control as
But
well as
also,
obviously.
because Piastri then got past Russell and ruined the top British podium for a second, it was sort of like the McLaren had that. The crossover for the McLaren, where it stopped being grippy, was later than it was for everybody else. They had more mechanical grip, I think.
And weirdly, again, Ferrari kind of messed up Charles Leclerc's strategy for no adequately explained reason.
Epically screwed it up, yeah.
And we've got no idea quite why. I mean, one of the things Fred Vasseur said about hiring Hamilton, apart from the obvious halo effect and the fact that it's an enormously lucrative deal, like because Hamilton brings sponsorship with him and recognition, and it's like one of the most brand aware drivers, shall we say, with one of the best brands in motorsport. So
yeah.
But he's also said that behind the scenes there's a lot of technical people who are quite happy living in the Milton Keynes triangle and don't want to go to Italy.
Yeah.
Because, there's like 6 or 7 teams in that triangle where you can basically keep the same schools, keep the same house, maybe change your commute a bit in the morning, but it's not...
You're in the same part of the world. Like, if you're at home there, you've got a few options.
It's not a big life-changing
Not
thing.
like moving to Italy.
Yeah. But he thinks if Hamilton goes, there will be people on the technical side who'll go, you know what, let's look at houses in Maranello. Let's see what the commute is like. Let's.
They'll follow Hamilton.
Yeah. And I think he's somebody that people want to work with. I've heard things about him making a really good workplace and doing things I'm sure right-wingers would call woke, like, getting mindfulness in, having teams that everybody's level and, encouraging ideas and mental health awareness and stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard he's done all that at Mercedes, and I could see how employees would want.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
So, but yeah, and again, you see that kind of pit stop strategy, if you can call it a strategy, from Ferrari. That's the kind of intangible thing that Hamilton will bring: a better workplace environment, better people who can make better decisions. Not just, he's a very good driver in the red car, but the kind of team around him. Because didn't you say Leclerc, when they went from wet to dry, stayed out on the wrong tyres and lost like 30 seconds a lap?
Maybe not quite that much, but he was on the intermediates way too early, and him and Perez pitted at the same time actually, but Perez was down in like 15th, and he was sort of like a guinea pig for Verstappen. But Leclerc was losing like buckets of time to the drivers ahead. I mean, at this point when the top teams are pitting onto the Inters, let me just go back a sec. The gap between Leclerc and I think Bottas or Ricciardo is 48 seconds. From Bottas to Leclerc, who's in 15th. Well, 15th to 16th. The gap between Leclerc in 16th and 15th place was 48 seconds. Which is like completely insurmountable for even like anybody.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking they had to pit Leclerc twice because he chewed through one set of intermediates because they pitted him too early on a dry track?
Yes. He pitted on lap, is that 27? Yes. And that was his second stop. I think he pitted a third time then to get off them. Yeah.
It's down with... It's kind of an appalling strategy. He's now only 4 points ahead of Carlos Sainz. Who
had a much better time of it in sort of
race.
Yeah.
Actually, if he got the 6 points that Ollie Behrman got, and I think being a way more experienced driver, that's being unfair to Carlos Sainz.
He definitely, would have got a few more.
But even with those 6 points, he'd be 2 points ahead of Leclerc now, which is
so
kind
Leclerc's
of weird.
Kind of living on borrowed time, but also it wasn't his fault.
No.
Ferrari screwed him out of a good result at Canada with his engine issues and another appalling wet weather strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe their strategy machines are like external to the pit wall, so when it rains they get like rain damaged and they stop working properly.
Well, the weird thing is you would kind of expect with both Sainz and Hamilton maybe not overtly, but there would be a little bit of, oh, we have to call somebody in first. Let's get the other guy in because, Sainz is being booted basically, and Hamilton's abandoned his team. So you kind of think, well, maybe.
Yeah. But actually, for some reason, Ferrari are taking it out on Leclerc instead.
Yeah, which is just weird.
He's the guinea pig.
Yeah.
But yeah. Maybe he also used up all his luck in Monaco.
It was a weird race.
He had like a monkey's paw thing, like he did a deal with the devil.
And now he's getting his soul back, yeah.
He's like, I'll take the Monaco Grand Prix. But the monkey's paw was like, you'll never have a good strategy call again.
That's kind of harsh, but...
I think he'd take it, actually, to be fair.
Well, yeah. I heard about when Russell went out, even on the formation lap.
Yes.
The Mercedes mechanics were very much aware that his car was leaking.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Right at the beginning. And by lap 33, when he retired, they were like, I honestly don't think, given all the numbers we've got and the data we've got, he's going to make it to the end of the race. But the reason why he came in, and it was such a bolt to the blue for the viewers, and presumably maybe not so much for George, because they probably had unheard radio messages.
Yeah.
Was that they reached a point, and I know this from working on classic cars, where if they lost much more fluid keeps the car cool. And if they boiled the internal combustion engine, they could almost certainly warp the cylinder heads. They could hydrolock it. They could not hydrolock. They could lock it. The pistons get so hot they expand and jam inside the cylinders.
Totally ruin the car.
Yeah,
basically,
that would mean
the
they
engine.
would actually completely trash the engine. There's pretty much no way back from that.
And would they have to use another component then? Because we're also saying that quite a lot of teams have been burning through their engine components quite quickly.
Yeah, I think they have been going through them. I know Red Bull have for a start. I think the second half of the season we're going to see a lot of. I think you picked out Spa, didn't you? Where Red Bull might just
they have quotes sacrificed Verstappen's qualifying at Spa before, but he tends to just win anyway because it's one of his favourite tracks. He really likes it.
Yeah.
Also, Gasly had a 50-place grid penalty, for using up components, and then he DNF'd anyway because they wanted to save them. So,
yeah, and I think that's the first of many that we're going to see. But that's why Russell appeared to be driving a perfectly normal race, good pace, no oil, smoke, or flames or anything, and they just pitted him because they wanted to preserve that car and have that internal combustion engine back out later on.
Yeah, it was very surprising, and it ruined the all-British podium. I was pretty annoyed from a statistics point of view.
We're going to have Oliver Behrman next season, so there'll be four
in a Haas.
Yeah, as I say, Hulkenberg has been storming at the moment.
Yeah, but storming in the sense that 6th place is an incredible result.
Yeah, you're right. He won't be up there for a podium, innit?
I mean, well, unless a Super Austria happens.
Yeah.
In which case, I mean, Ocon won a race in an Alpine, so you literally never know.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
So then, when the rain stopped...
Yes.
We just looked at each other and Hamilton was mysteriously out in front with, I think, Norris behind him. And I think Verstappen was down in 4th or 5th at that time.
Yeah, so is this when they were looking to cross over back onto slicks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hamilton was leading. He came out onto slicks in the lead on softs.
Which was forced upon them. They had no good sets of mediums left.
Yeah, let me just check. So that's... Russell's out. So Sainz was up there on the inters. He stayed out a bit long. They left Piastri out. Oh yeah, that's Norris going long on his pit box. So it was Hamilton, then Norris, then Verstappen. Piastri they left out too long, and he came out a lap later.
Yeah, I think with perfect hindsight, they should have double stacked them.
Yeah, but then if Norris had messed up his pit stop on a double stack, it might have thrown them off even more, and Piastri could have ended up with a 5-second pit stop.
Yeah,
but he did lose a lot more than that on driving around on a dry track on the inters for a lap.
Yeah,
but it was Hamilton leading. then Norris, then Verstappen. Verstappen was on the hard tyre. For some reason, they put Norris onto the softs to try and cover Hamilton or Verstappen. But Norris, for whatever reason, couldn't nurse the tyres as much as Hamilton could.
No.
Hamilton was, he's like the tyre whisperer.
And I think what we're seeing here, and I don't want to be down on the guy, because Lando Norris has really livened up the sport. And, I mean, we had a podium with 3 different drivers again. We had Norris on the podium again.
Well, 3 different teams, yeah.
3 different teams, rather, yeah.
They always tend to be 3 different drivers on the podium.
That does normally happen, yeah. 3 different teams.
Yes.
But always with Norris, it's those tiny, tiny mistakes.
Mm.
It's like in Austria where he went back to the pits a little bit too fast and destroyed his car.
Yeah.
And he still lost 10 points in the overall fight down to Max.
Mm.
And it's like here, he ran a couple of metres over his pit box. And everybody else, if they had them, were asking for mediums, and he went on to softs. When, as we saw in the when it started raining, the Mercedes on mediums was basically the McLaren on mediums was completely uncatchable.
Yeah.
It was the fastest thing out there.
Yeah.
And for some reason he came in and went, oh, give me softs. And then he missed his pit box. And you kind of think... I mean, he ended up 5 or 6 seconds behind Max. But I think the thing is, with drivers like Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and going further back, your Vettels and your Schumachers... When you get a race like that, where there's a lot of pressure and a lot of changing circumstances, they just have the next level where they are pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
Certainly they don't have small errors or little mistakes. I think in their heads there's no small error or little mistake. They just drive absolutely on the, everything just so.
Yeah. It's the kind of like, in a way, he got given that win by the safety car in Miami. Maybe without it, he probably wouldn't have won. Still, it's kind of like maybe reevaluating that a bit.
Yeah. Can we talk about how many records Lewis Hamilton broke?
So
I've just found another one.
Because Lewis Hamilton won the race, by the way, in case you missed it.
Yes, Lewis Hamilton. I mean, that was kind of nerve-wracking, but in a good way. It wasn't like the end of 2021. That was because you could see from the time gaps and the fact that Max Verstappen had to overtake Lando Norris before he could attack.
Yeah.
And how many laps were left.
We kind of saw it coming.
Yeah, you could see it was going to be okay.
I said in a previous episode, maybe after Monaco or Miami, this was the year that like a lot of curses are being broken. Like Norris's first win, Leclerc winning at home, even Sainz winning after appendicitis. And I did specifically say this could be the year that Hamilton breaks his winning curse.
Yeah.
And I said that, and I was right. And that is what this year is so far. So my next prediction, by the way, Hulkenberg on the podium.
Oh, it would be nice to see. He's put the work in.
Yeah, he's dragging the Haas up. It also Haas's first podium ever. Would be like another big thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's next.
How many podiums has Lewis Hamilton had at Silverstone?
11? 13?
15.
Jeez, gods. He's only been racing like 17 years.
Yeah, the last 11 Silverstone races he's been on the podium.
Consecutively.
And he obviously got 4 before that. Also, now, if you add together Alain Prost and Seb Vettel's race wins, guess what you get to?
104?
Yep.
So he's well, hang on a second, Father.
Yeah.
Prost has 4 championships.
Yeah.
Vettel has 4 championships.
Yeah, Hamilton should have 8, but...
Yeah, he's won 8 championships worth of races.
Yeah.
And I mean, he got damn close in 2021.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see it. He got damn close in 2016 as well, actually.
Yeah.
And 2007.
Yes.
He should have 10 world championships, actually. Yeah.
Well,
it would be unequivocally the GOAT then, wouldn't he?
yeah.
I mean, he is already anyway. So that's also made him the longest gap between first and most recent victory ever.
Yeah.
Previously, I think it was Raikkonen. Because he won in like 2003, and then 2018 he won the US Grand Prix.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, yeah.
Only driver to win after his 300th race start.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them, aren't there? Only driver to win 9 times at the same circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like... Yes, and I think Max has got to win so many races to even come close. I think Max is on about 62 race wins, 61, something like that. So he's got another 40-odd to go if Hamilton stops winning, which he doesn't show any sign of doing.
Yes.
One of the random things that came up on my Facebook feed, because Facebook has learned how much I like F1. On this day, which was the 12th of July 1998, there was the British Grand Prix, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was that epic one where it was Schumacher and Hakkinen, I think. And Schumacher picked up a 10-second penalty for passing Alexander Wirtz under the safety car right at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Now, he's always claimed, and his team have always claimed, they weren't sure if it was a stop-go penalty because it was a handwritten notification or time to be added at the end of the race.
Mm-hmm.
So they called him into the pits on the last lap.
Yeah.
But the Ferrari pit garage was past the start-finish line in the pits.
Yes.
So he went through the pits at the pit lane speed limiter, triggered the timing.
Won the race.
And then
yes.
entered his pit garage, and they didn't add 10 seconds on, but it caused unbelievable amounts of aggravation.
What they've done now, I believe the pit lane is no longer part of the racetrack.
Yeah.
So the timing beam for the start-finish straight doesn't extend into the pit lane. So he wouldn't have... Nowadays, that can't happen.
It says on Wikipedia, following the race, a dispute arose surrounding the circumstances of Michael Schumacher being issued with and serving his penalty. His team argued that penalty should have been issued within 25 minutes of the incident, but instead they were informed after 31 minutes. They also argued the handwritten notification was unclear as to which penalty was actually being issued, a stop and go, or a 10-second addition to the race time. Although FIA's International Court of Appeal later claimed it was the latter. The stewards then decided to nevertheless apply the 10-second addition post-race. However, the added time penalty can only be used to punish an infraction in the last 12 laps of a Grand Prix, and did not apply. The stewards eventually rescinded the penalty altogether.
Wow.
It was just like... That's what I mean. That's kind of... I know Schumi did an awful lot of very dodgy things behind the wheel of his race car.
Yeah.
But that's what winning teams do. They kind of push everything and exploit everything.
Yeah, I mean, teams say, like, if they're not being talked to or investigated by the FIA once a season, then they're not pushing the limits hard enough.
Yeah.
That's how you win.
Oh.
What?
As a result of their mistakes, 3 stewards involved handed in their licenses at an extraordinary meeting of the FIA World Council.
Oh my god. So Schumacher actually outmaneuvered the stewards so hard that 3 of them quit.
Well, I think they're right, because the penalty wasn't issued correctly. It wasn't issued in the right time. It wasn't the right penalty.
So you mean the rules weren't applied correctly?
Yeah.
Weird,
that.
Anyway.
Right, I feel like we've been talking for ages.
Let me check. Just coming up to 40 minutes.
There is one other thing I saw. I kind of... You know those things that are so awkward they're kind of funny, but you don't know quite what to do?
Yeah.
Have you seen the video of Goodwood Festival of Speed?
I haven't seen it specifically, but I've seen pictures from it and stuff.
Oh, right. Red Bull went all out because they're a British team.
Yeah.
At the Goodwood Festival of Speed. And they had Adrian Newey, I think, driving the RB17 up the hill. And Christian Horner was out in one of Seb Vettel's old F1 cars, etc. But then Karun Chandok interviewed rather unfortunately, Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. And it was meant to be a Festival of Speed interview. It was like, oh, what are you driving up the hill? And Max was just being funny and going, oh yeah, it'd be nice to be in the same car as Daniel Ricciardo. We're going to have a laugh with this. And then Karun Chandok, who was doing the interview, just said, oh, does that mean you're going to be teammates?
Oof.
And then, it gets worse. The camera panned back, and guess who was standing next to Ricciardo and Verstappen?
Perez was right there.
And the look on his face is like, I have to keep smiling.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh, you really said that in front of Perez.
But, it's his job, isn't it, to just stir the pot, basically.
Yes. Now, details have emerged about the deal that Perez got when he signed a 1 year plus 1 deal.
Yes.
Most pundits seem to agree that he has to stay within 100 points and within 5 places of Max Verstappen, ideally by the summer break.
I did see that, yeah.
Now, I've got the chart up here.
Yeah.
Basically, in 2 races, he's got to outscore Max Verstappen by 38 points.
I think we talked about this last time, but basically, the job he's got to do has got harder.
Yeah, I don't
because
think
Verstappen came second and Perez came 17th in that race.
Yeah, I think we talked about it off podcast. I don't think we actually put it on the podcast.
I don't actually remember, to be honest. I think, it might have been... I don't know.
But basically, the next 2 races at Hungary and Spa,
yes,
which he pointed out Max loves.
Although he did love Austria as well, and that didn't quite work out. So you never know.
Either Max has to DNF both of them or finish both of them out of the points, 11th and lower, and Perez has to finish 2nd or higher.
Yeah.
Or I think it could just about happen if Perez wins a race. How far down would... And Max would have to be down at like 6 or 7 points.
If you're scrambling this hard for like clutching at straws, basically.
Yeah, he'd have to win, and Max Verstappen would have to be 7th or lower.
Yeah.
In 2 consecutive races.
Yes.
And he's also 6 places behind already, and I think there's people snapping at his heels. Perez. Yeah, he's only 7 points ahead of Russell and 8 points ahead of Hamilton, so...
Yeah.
That little group there... actually, if Piastri or Perez has a bad race, and the Mercedes pace isn't imaginary, there could be quite a big shuffling between 5th and 8th in the WDC.
Yeah, it looks like... Well, Aston Martin... Alonso's currently in 9th, and he is 65 points off Hamilton.
Yeah.
Hamilton is 1 point behind Russell, who is 7 points behind Perez, who is 6 points behind Piastri. Now, Piastri's 22 points behind Sainz, but he's only 4 points behind Leclerc.
So there are kind of battles all the way up and down the list.
There's 40 points separate Leclerc in 3rd from Hamilton in 8th. And 40 points is definitely overhaulable across, like, what have we even got? 12 more races?
Yeah, you're really looking to make up 3 or 4 points a race to make that suddenly get very interesting.
Well, if we're not talking podiums, coming 4th and a rival comes 5th, that'll do. Each race.
Well, like I say, anybody in that group, probably of Leclerc, Sainz, Piastri, Perez, Russell, Hamilton.
Any of them could win a race.
Yeah, I was going to say, if one of them wins and somebody else in the group DNFs or comes outside the points...
You could gain like 4 places.
Yeah, it's going to really shuffle up. That's going to be the kind of races to watch. I'd like to see Norris as well. I'd like to see Norris actually outscoring Verstappen.
Yeah, closing the gap and putting some pressure on him.
At the moment, no matter what happens, Verstappen wakes up on a Monday morning with a bigger gap than he did on Friday morning, to be blunt.
Yeah, even in Austria, which again... It's like the champion sort of mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. Even with a huge accident.
Norris outscored him in Monaco. Outscored him in Miami.
I think that's probably it.
Well, outscored him in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is it. That's why there's an 84-point gap at the moment.
So that's 3 races he outscored him in and 9 he didn't.
Yeah. And Verstappen's only won 7 races this year. Only.
Yeah.
Again, the issue is there's been... Is that 6 different winners? Yeah. 6 winners in 12 races. But 7 of those races have gone to Verstappen and everybody else has only won 1.
So that's kind of, again, it's like to kind of cross sports, watching the Tour de France. Really exciting. A brand new rider has got the green jersey, which is just allocated on the basis of points. You get lots of points for winning a stage, sprinting, etc.
Yeah.
And they asked him, are you going to try and win more stages? And he turned around and said, no, I want to keep the jersey. I will try and finish ahead of the guy who's number 2 in the race for the green jersey.
Yes.
So his mindset wasn't, I've got to win everything on the table. His mindset was, I know who's behind me. I finish ahead of him. My gap increases.
And it is a proper battle now because I think Philipsen's won 2 races, 2 stages, and Germeyer's won 3.
Yeah, it's not that close. I think he's still got a whole race ahead. But like I was saying, it's the same mindset. Verstappen, obviously he's a racing driver. Obviously he's Max Verstappen. He would love to win every single race that he enters. But as soon as that's not looking possible, his next question he's going to ask himself is, am I ahead of Lando Norris?
Yeah.
And
mostly the answer is yes.
Yeah, so he's doing his job. I think I'm going to end on a positive note. I heard about the cool-down room banter that goes on between the drivers.
Yeah.
And I've seen this plenty of places. Apparently they all just sat down and Max turned to Lewis and just said, took you long enough.
Oh, yeah.
And Lewis just turned around and went, yeah, you're a bull hogger.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice because I think after 2021, nobody actually thought they could be even civil to each other in the same room, to be honest.
It's sort of like lots of people have realised that Vettel, he was kind of a bit snarky and a bit unpleasant occasionally when he was fighting hard for a championship.
Yeah.
Or when he was fighting hard with Hamilton. But actually, when he sort of stopped fighting for a championship and went to Aston Martin and just was chilling, he became a lot more sort of friendly and happy and funny.
Yeah, and he's actually kind of worked quite hard for drivers' rights and the environmental.
Yeah, he's chilled out a lot. I think that's probably what we're seeing with Hamilton. Because Hamilton's like, I'm not winning the championship this year. Verstappen, it's been 2 years, 3 years. It wasn't really Verstappen's fault. It was the FIA and Michael Massey.
Yeah.
So Hamilton's probably not forgiven him, but he's probably not, he's probably not got the right mindset to bear that much of a grudge because it's not actually very healthy.
I think Hamilton's quite a lot into the self-improvement and having the right mindset.
Yeah. God knows how it's going to go next year, but, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, I saw Gasly talking. Apparently there's a driver's WhatsApp group that's really dull because they're talking about who's on which flight and where they're staying and if the toilets are any good. The different racetracks and complaining about stuff. It's 90% business and 10% memes, he said.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap that up there while I've still got a voice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. Let's hope we have more. Let's hope we have somebody who wins more than 2 races whose name isn't Max Verstappen, let's be honest.
Or do we want to see Perez stage a comeback, Piastri get a win, or someone random like, I don't know, Tsunoda or Magnussen?
I'd like somebody to rack up 2 or 3 wins so that they can start to pressure the leader.
Oh yeah, let's say Norris wins the next couple races, closes the gap.
Yeah.
And then we start having more, I want to see 10 drivers in one season win a race. I think that'd be fun.
Okay, yeah, I can go with that. Anyway, I am Graham Miller. I write murder mysteries under the name Graham H. Miller, if you like that sort of thing. If you found this on YouTube, you already know about Toby's channel, Official Tibby. If not, go and check that out. Thank you for listening and downloading. Like us, tell your friends about it, etc. And we'll be back after the Hungaroring.
Yep. Cool.
Okay,
Bye.
goodbye.
Bye.